Excellencies, colleagues, good morning. May I kindly ask everyone to take their seats. We are about to begin the session. I call the 5th meeting of the conference to order. We will now continue the consideration of agenda item 5A. The first part of this meeting will be dedicated to hearing statements from delegations as part of the general debate. It is now my pleasure to invite the first speaker for this morning, the delegation of New Zealand.
Madam President, New Zealand sees this COSP as an important opportunity to reaffirm the importance of giving effect to disability rights as underpinned by the Convention. I am privileged to be the Chief Executive of the Ministry of Disabled People, Whaikaha, the first ministry of its kind in the world, where 60% of our staff are disabled. The ministry's vision is disabled people thriving in New Zealand. Our role is to drive meaningful change by working across government, NGOs and business for better outcomes. This work must be done with disabled people and their families and wider support networks. The mandate of the Ministry recognises the rights and contributions that persons with disabilities makes to social development. New Zealand will continue to champion disability rights globally. We are proud to co-chair the UN Group of Friends of Persons with Disabilities alongside Mexico and co-lead resolutions both in the 3rd Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and in the Human Rights Council. We also warmly support the UN increased focus on accessibility for disabled people and efforts to further the UN Disability Inclusion Strategy. At home, we are refreshing our disability strategy this year alongside a broader program of work on accessibility to places, spaces and information. The strategy focuses on areas aligned to the New Zealand Government's wider targets and where a practical difference can be made for disabled people. These 5 areas are health, education, employment, housing and justice. New Zealand appreciates the opportunity to share and learn from other nations in these areas, which will inform the development of our strategy. As part of this, we particularly welcome consideration and ideas around increasing disabled people's employment and participation in a growing and inclusive economy. We know the important role employment makes in advancing social development. New Zealand also appreciates the increasing focus on innovation and innovative practice in this conference and looks forward to the contributions from a range of organisations on this. There is an opportunity to ensure that the gains which can be harnessed from technologies and AI can benefit disabled people. New Zealand has made significant investments in disability in recent years. I am mindful that this COSP takes place on the 80th anniversary of the formation of the UN, and I acknowledge all disabled leaders who have striven for a better world for disabled people. May the strength of their conviction guide us. Ngā mihi. Thank you.
I thank New Zealand, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Australia.
Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, Australia's modern identity is one of diversity and resilience, shaped by the experiences of many social and cultural communities across our country, including the world's oldest continuing culture, Australia's First Nations people. Progress in Australia has been driven by embracing the strength in diversity and differences of culture, including within the disability community. This has highlighted the important perspectives of people with disability alongside other intersectional identities in improving community outcomes and the crucial step of placing people with disability in decision-making roles. Australia also recognises the additional barriers faced by women and First Nations people with disability and the unique insights they bring to drive meaningful change. As the world approaches a critical juncture of uncertainty, we must resist the contraction of rights globally and continue to partner with civil society and multilateral systems. In November 2024, Australia released our new International Disability Equity and Rights Strategy. Shaped by organisations of people with disability from across the Indo-Pacific, this strategy continues our proud legacy of advocacy for the rights of people with disability. It commits us to deepening our partnerships with and investments in the disability rights movement. It establishes Australia's first ever performance target for the disability equity in our development program. And it marks a shift in our focus from disability inclusion to disability equity and rights, recognising different people need different settings in place to thrive. Colleagues, shifting our approach to disability equity requires investment. It requires collaboration. International cooperation mechanisms and the overall architecture for financing development cooperation are under increased strain. The Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development's Development Assistance Committee policy marker on disability inclusion and empowerment presents a great opportunity to better track our official development assistance flows, to build the evidence base and to generate powerful new insights. At the 2025 Global Disability Summit, Australia committed to working with global partners to introduce minimum standards for this disability marker. From our experience, clear minimum standards can lead to increased investment and improved programming. As we approach the Second World Summit for Social Development and as we celebrate the United Nations 80th year, we must strengthen our resolve to leave no one behind and to advance the human rights of all people. We in Australia look forward to working together towards a fairer, more equitable future. Thank you.
I thank Australia, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Sweden.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. Sweden fully aligns itself with the statement made by the European Union and its member states. We're living in challenging times with geopolitical tensions, conflicts, and political instability in various regions. This all contributes to the global uncertainty, and we know that persons with disabilities often face greater risk in uncertain times. I would therefore like to thank the Bureau for selecting the 3 sub-themes for this year's conference, which include areas where further efforts are required and where proactive measures are essential to ensure access. One area where we need to be proactive is digitalization and AI. If we are to make AI a tool for supporting inclusivity and strengthen the participation of persons with disabilities. However, for this endeavor to be successful, it is crucial to involve persons with disabilities and the organizations that represent them in the process. Recently, our Minister for Public Administration consulted the Swedish Disability Delegation, which is the government's main forum for consultation and dialogue with the disability movement, to get their views regarding Sweden's new digitalization strategy. Such incentives are essential if we are to give everyone the best possible condition to participate in the rapidly evolving digitalized landscape and AI, and also in all parts of society. Sweden received the concluding observations and recommendations of the committee last year. An important part of the continued work with the recommendation has been to involve civil society throughout the process. To this end, several meetings have been held with a broad spectrum of human rights organizations. Through these meetings, the government has been able to more accurately identify priorities and understand where efforts are most needed. Another measure taken by the government has been to task the Swedish Agency for Participation, not only with making the recommendations accessible and disseminating them, but also conducting dialogues with relevant stakeholders, including disability organizations, obtaining their assessment of what the recommendations may imply for each stakeholder in a national context. Sweden is also preparing a new action plan for disability policy that is expected to be finalized in 2026. The current disability strategy has 12 areas of particular importance and has designated specific government agencies within each area to monitor and report on the implementation of disability policy. This monitoring and reporting forms the basis of the action plan, but of course it is also important to continue following developments made by other countries, pay attention to recommendations from relevant stakeholders, and share relevant information and experiences on the implementation of the convention. The COSP makes all this possible and is a source of inspiration in our efforts to build disability-inclusive and participatory societies, even in uncertain times. Thank you very much.
We thank Sweden, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Mongolia.
Madam Chair, Mongolia is pleased to make a statement at this session under overarching theme of enhancing public awareness of the rights and contributions of persons with disabilities for social development leading up to the World Social Summit. This session is significant as it is discussing the pressing issues for further implementation of the Convention for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, such as innovative financing for disability-inclusive development, harnessing artificial intelligence for inclusion, and advancing the rights of the indigenous people with disabilities. Madam Chair, Mongolia has taken significant strides in advancing the rights of persons with disabilities over the decades, adopting the landmark law on the rights of persons with disabilities in 2016. Since then, the government of Mongolia and society demonstrated a strong commitment to inclusivity and equal opportunity. The 2023 report by the UN Committee on the Rights of the Persons with Disabilities further commended Mongolia's comprehensive approach to ensuring the rights, participation, and development of peoples with disabilities through key initiatives such as the establishment of the national councils and programs, amendments to labor laws, and targeted support mechanisms. Overall, all political legislative grassroots commitments have been high toward to ensuring the rights and well-being of people with disabilities. In 2023, Mongolia's election law has been revised toward creating a more representative, transparent, and fair political system focusing on national policies and ensuring diverse representation. In the result of the parliamentary elections of 2024, the people with the disabilities have been represented for the first time in the Parliament of Mongolia. On 29 November 2024, National Conference entitled Development and Participation of Persons with Disabilities was held under the auspices of the President of Mongolia, His Excellency Khurusi Khukhna, at the State Palace of Mongolia. In his opening remarks, the President reaffirmed that the rights, development, protection, and participation of people with disabilities take priority in the policies and activities of the President and Government of Mongolia. And social welfare, education, and healthcare services must be delivered in quality and inclusive manner. In December 2024, on the occasion of International Day of Persons with Disabilities, the Media Council of Mongolia, with the support of UNESCO Regional Office for East Asia, organized a two-day training workshop for media professionals, which helped media outlets develop strategies that promote equality.
I thank Mongolia, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Cuba.
Gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Cuba's commitment to the provisions of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities is unshakable. The well-being and comprehensive development of persons with disabilities are absolute priorities for the Cuban state. Cuba is making huge efforts to be a benchmark in the protection and care of these persons. And we are doing this with the belief that a more inclusive and accessible and tolerant world, respectful of diversity and differences, is not only something that is necessary, but rather essential in order to not leave anybody behind. Legislative progress in our country since the adoption of the 2019 Constitution, in particular the adoption of the modern family code, are testament to our commitment to strengthening the legal protection of the human rights of this group of the population. While we have made headway, we need to continue to perfect the public institutions and resources to ensure the full inclusion and dignity and participation in society of all persons with disabilities. We are doing this despite the economic pressures and lackings caused by the embargo imposed against us by the government of the United States, that has got worse since we were included again on the group of states that supposedly sponsor terrorism. The embargo causes real harm. 15 minutes of embargo are equivalent to the finance required to provide hearing aids to the thousands of adolescents in special education in our country. And 15 minutes of embargo is enough to provide wheelchairs for our entire special education system. Despite this cruel policy, Cuba continues, as far as possible, to distribute hearing aids and other equipment like wheelchairs and crutches to persons in need. In Cuba, persons with disabilities are not only the beneficiaries of social programs, but rather they are also active agents of change and progress. Their voice, sent out through different organisations in our civil society, is listened to and respected, and their political participation is appreciated. Promoting the autonomy and dignity of persons with disabilities, continuing to protect their human rights, and making headway together towards a more inclusive and just society for all persons remains the will of our state and a priority of our government that we will never give up on. Thank you very much.
And I now give the floor to the delegation of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. It is very important to fully guarantee the dignity and right of persons with disability. In 1946, the DPRK promulgated a labor law in which regulate provision on ensuring living conditions of persons with disabilities. Since then, it has systematically upgraded national legal system so that persons with disability can enjoy their worthwhile lives with equal right to other people. DPRK regulates provision on protection of the right of persons with disability in the Socialist Constitution and the other is subordinated laws. In addition, the DPRK established Central Committee of the Korean Federation for Protection of Persons with Disability in 1998 and adopted the Law on Protection of Disabled and the Law on Protection of the Right of Persons with Disability, respectively. As a result, socio-political, economic, and cultural rights of persons with disability are ensured at a high level. Today, the DPRK has drawn up a strategic plan to further expand and develop protection of disabled nationwide and has achieved great success in its implementation. More practical measures are being taken to provide environment and conditions for all disabled children in order to receive equal education, and free treatment system is being implemented so that disabled persons can recover and improve their mental and physical abilities. In addition, we are selecting sports and art suitable for health of disabled and encouraging them to engage in sports and perform art activities. The great progress is being made in raising awareness of the disabled throughout society, such as a newly established Fund for Disabled, which is increasing enthusiasm for support. Madam Vice President, the DPRK has been faithfully making preparation for review of implementation of the convention as a state party while enhancing international exchange and cooperation. The DPRK remains committed to constantly developing its policies for protecting the right of persons with disability by thoroughly embodying the people-first political agenda in all fields of the state and also making active contribution to international efforts for protection of the person with a disability. I thank you.
I thank the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Guinea.
Madame la Présidente.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset I wish to express on behalf of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Guinea, General Mamadi Doumbouya, our most heartfelt congratulations and regards. We wish you every success in the work of this session. Guinea is delighted to participate in this 18th session, the agenda of which is a call upon states parties to effectively implement the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. The Republic of Guinea, that has ratified the convention and its optional protocol in February 2008, is engaging in huge efforts that contribute to raising better awareness among the public as to the rights and contributions of persons with disabilities. Keen to entrench a climate of equity and social justice, the Guinean authorities are providing the means to improve the living conditions of vulnerable populations. Many initiatives include the following: the allocation of a third of the budget of the Ministry for Social Action to projects and programs for disability, the active participation of persons with disabilities in the drafting of the draft constitution that provides unprecedented provisions on inclusion, such as compensation and prevention for disability, as well as the promotion of employability. Next, the adoption by the National Transition Council of the amended law on the rights of persons with disabilities that provides for a framework to take account of the essential needs for protection and empowerment and social protection, employability, and even fiscal and customs advantages, and also awareness-raising campaigns and successful advocacy efforts for better accessibility of government buildings. Madam Chair, the Guinean government participated in the Global Summit on Disability in Berlin in April 2025 and has signed up to the final declaration inviting each state to allocate 15% to disability. Working towards the Global Summit for Social Development, the Republic of Guinea is adopting and drawing on its social development programme, Simandu 2040, in order to significantly reduce poverty, to promote full productive employment and decent work for all, and ensuring social conclusion. We will continue to act in this regard, and I wish to conclude by reiterating our appeal for disability to be accepted in the framework of human diversity, and that persons with disabilities are supported and valued, not thanks to their lackings, but because of their potential and their skills and capacities. Thank you very much for your attention. Argentina, please.
Buenos días a todos.
A very good morning, everyone, Madam Chair. The Argentine Republic has an historic commitment to the human rights of persons with disabilities. This is something that we are particularly seeing and that we saw during the leadership in the process to draft the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and also the multitude of institutions that support and protect persons with disabilities in our country on a daily basis, ensuring that the means are provided to those that seek equal opportunities in daily life. On an institutional level, we have both a national disability agency as well as a network of official ombudspersons and defence groups where those that defend persons with disabilities engage in actions to facilitate access to justice, including therapeutical support and social services, and the goal of this is to transform social life into an environment of hospitality, resilience and hope, so that the dignity of each and every human being becomes the fraternal duty of all. The current government of Argentina has undertaken a deep-running institutional transformation with a focus on efficiency and transparency in the use of public resources. The goal of this is to ensure that these resources effectively reach all of the people that need them without middlemen, and promoting accountability with different audits and strengthening the direct link between the state and its citizens, giving a central role to family environments and social areas that need to be dealt with. In line with the commitments made under the Convention, Argentina recognises the dignity and the inherent value of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family. In this framework, we have implemented programmes such as the National Fund for the Social Inclusion of Persons with Disabilities, the FONADIS programme that funds endeavours led by persons with disabilities and that fosters their inclusion in the labour market in the private sector. We are also strengthening training in the public sector and private sector on accessibility, work inclusion and education, and technical assistance is being provided to the provinces and municipalities to ensure accessible and adequate environments for every single person. Madam Chair, Argentina values international technical cooperation that enables us to bring good practices in line with the different contexts and the unique characteristics of each state. We particularly appreciate these multilateral spaces as an environment to foster creativity and a network of resources that enable us to strengthen evidence-based practices that have a transformational potential for the life of each and every person and their families. Thank you very much.
To the delegation of Thailand. Microphone for Thailand, please.
Chairperson, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Thailand is committed to a strategic framework that implement of opportunity and dignity for persons with disability. Our approach program on year access to right to inclusive education, expanded and employment, and an enforcing environment that supports independent living based on universal design. Over the past year, CRPD courses, location training, modern in-person with university, a joint program with the Ministry of Labor to overnight with 4,300 persons with disability, and David were training 200 new community sign language international training, raising the top 10 in white rational disability leader program. Disability 72,000 assisting device and patent for the Syria World Summit for Social Development Labor that year Thailand, whose resident in for commitments to the CRPD and the promotion and protection for right of people with disability. I thank you.
I thank Thailand, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Uganda.
Madam Vice President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the government of Uganda, I'm honored to address all state parties present at this 18th session of the Conference of State Parties to the CRPD. Uganda's commitment to UN Convention on CRPD and its optional protocol has been unwavering since ratifying it on 25th September 2008. The CRPD has provided us with a broad spectrum to develop legislation, policies, and programs that aim to improve the lives of persons with disabilities. In this regard, the Persons with Disabilities Act in Uganda has adopted a comprehensive definition of disability, including physical, mental, sensory impairments, and environmental barriers that limit individuals' participation in society on an unequal basis with others. It is estimated that 13.4% of Uganda's population has some form of disability, highlighting the significance of maintaining or mainstreaming disability across all government programs. Uganda recognizes that artificial intelligence is now a global powerful tool that can be used to harness inclusion of persons with disabilities. In this regard, Uganda formulated the National Information, Communication and Technology for Disability Policy, which aims to ensure that persons with disabilities have access to ICT and participate fully in the digital society. This is further strengthened by Access to Information Act, which allows for flexibility mechanisms such as oral requests for persons with disabilities. Article 32 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda obligates the state to provide affirmative action to marginalized groups, including indigenous persons. This is done through implementation of affirmative action programs to enhance livelihood and social protection for indigenous people, in addition to preservation of their cultural heritage. Indigenous people in Uganda include, but not limited to, Karamojo, Basongora, Batwa, the Ik, Benet, among others. To ensure financial inclusion of persons with disabilities, the government of Uganda implements targeted quotas in every program of 10% for persons with disabilities. This is in addition to designing the designing of disability-specific programs in the form of grants to ensure their households have daily income and enhancing participation of the private sector in the provision of financial products for persons with disabilities. In conclusion, the government of Uganda reiterates its commitment to the full implementation of CRPD and to continue ensuring accessible services and participation of persons with disabilities so as to leave no one behind. I thank you.
I thank Uganda, and I now give the floor to the delegation of India.
Good morning, Chair, Excellencies. The choice of the topic for the 18th session of the Conference of State Parties to enhance public awareness on rights of persons with disabilities, we believe is both prudent and timely. We believe it's a critical component of shaping societal perceptions and advancing rights of persons with disabilities for inclusive social development. The cornerstone of India's strategy to empower the disabled persons is the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act of 2016, which signifies a paradigm shift, recognizing persons with disabilities as active contributors to national progress. The Act aligns with the principles of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and provides for access to inclusive education, vocational training, and self-employment of disabled persons. The Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities was established in India in 2014 as a dedicated nodal agency to coordinate and drive disability-related policies across various stakeholders. Our national education policy promotes inclusive education, ensuring that children with disabilities have equal access to quality education alongside their peers. The policy aims to create an enabling environment where individuals with disabilities can exercise their rights, enjoy equal opportunities, and participate fully in society. Madam Chair, India's commitment extends beyond policy implementation to fostering comprehensive awareness about the rights and extraordinary contributions of persons with disabilities. The Accessible India campaign, launched in 2015, exemplifies this approach of public awareness, driving systemic change. This initiative promotes universal accessibility across public spaces, transportation, information and communication technologies, and sign language support, ensuring that persons with disabilities can navigate public spaces with independence and dignity. Our targeted schemes like the Deen Dayal Divyangan Rehabilitation Scheme and PM Daksh Yojana highlight the economic potential and capabilities of persons with disabilities and what they could achieve with rehabilitation and skilling. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has repeatedly emphasized my government's commitment, highlighting the remarkable achievements of persons with disabilities, particularly in platforms like the Paralympics, which demonstrate their extraordinary can-do spirit. The upcoming Second World Summit for Social Development presents an unprecedented opportunity in this regard to amplify global awareness and commitment on the rights of persons with disabilities and the need to create an ecosystem for them to achieve their full potential. This summit can serve as a catalyst for transforming how societies perceive and engage with persons with disabilities, moving towards meaningful participation in social development processes. India believes that...
I thank India, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Belarus.
Madam Vice President, Belarus is consistently working for social integration of persons with disabilities, improving the quality of their lives. Social protections for persons with disabilities is one of the priorities of the Republic of Belarus's social policy. We have a national plan of action to implement the CRPD. Under the national plan, executive bodies work with courts and social society organizations. As of January 1st, 2025, we've introduced an automated information system for promoting accessibility to social infrastructure sites. Information is put on a publicly available cadastral map on the internet, and people know exactly how to move without barriers in terms of accessibility. In terms of improving the employability of persons with disability, we have introduced since 2025 quotas for the employment of persons with disabilities. This is an important measure which will help the adaptation of persons with disabilities and promote social partnerships. These measures are supported by the citizens of our country, as demonstrated by the 2023 poll carried out by the Institute of Sociology of the Belarus National Academy. The results of the poll demonstrate that the majority of our citizens in all spheres of life are prepared to work together with persons with disabilities. Belarus will continue this consistent work to promote the rights of persons with disabilities, their effective participation in the life of society. Thank you.
And I now give the floor to the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, which will deliver its statement via a pre-recorded video message. I kindly invite the Secretariat to play the video.
Señor Presidente, Excelencia, distinguidos delegados y participantes.
President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates and participants, it's an honour to speak on behalf of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and on behalf of our President, Mr. Nicolás Maduro Moros, and to wish the Chair and the Bureau every success in this conference. Venezuela, through its government programme and regulatory instruments that were designed in line with the Sustainable Development Goals, such as the Homeland Plan, the 70, the significant transformations and the plan to fight for the persons with disabilities in our countries, expressed in the concrete ejection agenda, is something that has prioritised the defence of the human rights of persons with disabilities. Our Republic is celebrating the enactment of the Organic Law for the Inclusion, Equality and Comprehensive Development of Persons with Disabilities, and the goal of this is to ensure that all persons with disabilities have their human dignity recognised as full rights holders. That's why the National Dissemination Plan, CONAPTIS, in the street, was adopted to ensure that we raise awareness on the content of this with the private and public sector. Currently, we are working on drafting the regulations. The idea is to consolidate the Technical Committee for Normalization, establishing a strategic alliance between representatives and organisations in the disability sector in order to implement, improve and endorse the parameters of quality, methodology and terminology with the inherent technical norms for persons with disabilities. We also have achieved results in our accessibility work, inclusion in the labour sector for thousands of boys, girls, adolescents and other persons with disabilities. We are also working with the UNDP, UNICEF and other institutions. CONAPIS has also engaged in important meetings with organisations and movements of persons with disabilities and training actions, recreational activities, sports and cultural activities, including opening the first neurosensorial event and raising awareness as to autism and Down syndrome, among others. On behalf of the President, Nicolás Maduro Moros, Venezuela reiterates its commitment to its own constitution and the implementation of the Convention and the UN system, providing direct support to persons with disabilities as rights holders. Excellencies, distinguished participants, thank you very much.
The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Nepal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Protecting and promoting disability rights is essential for building inclusive, just and equitable societies. Yet individuals with disabilities continue to face social, economic and structural barriers that limit their access to education, employment, healthcare and assistive technologies. They are disproportionately affected by poverty and health inequities, making their full participation in society even more challenging. To address these intersecting forms of discriminations, we must uphold their civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights, while fostering an environment that supports independent and dignified living. Ensuring their participation in the process of policy making and development is equally crucial. We must also ensure disability inclusive development so that they live with dignity and honor, and they participate in and equally benefit from the sustainable development efforts. Madam Chair, Nepal has made significant strides in ensuring the rights and inclusion of persons with disabilities through constitutional provisions, laws, and policies. The Constitution guarantees dignity, equality, and social justice for persons with disability. Participation of persons with disability in Parliament is guaranteed by the Constitution. We have ensured their participation in the civil services through reservation quota. The government provisions social protections and security to the people with disability. Nepal's commitment is further reinforced by ratifying the Convention's Rights of Persons with Disabilities and enacting the Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2017, which respect their civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights and ensure non-discriminations in workplaces and employment opportunities. Nepal strongly believes that a truly inclusive society is possible only when persons with disabilities live with dignity and actively contribute to sustainable development. Madam Chair, while we are convening the Second World Summit for Social Development, we must amplify the voices, rights, and contributions of people with disabilities. We must give due importance to their education, health, and employment needs. We must help them with finance, technology, and capacity building. Let's build an inclusive, just, and egalitarian society that embraces accessibility and equality for all, including people with disabilities. Nepal is fully committed to working closely together to this end. I thank you.
I thank Nepal, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Mali.
Madam President, warm congratulations to the Bureau and delegates. The government of Mali has put in place a number of initiatives to promote the rights and integration of persons with disabilities. The Constitution, in its first article, enshrines equality and equal opportunity for all citizens. Under the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and its additional protocols, our Ministry of Social Work has consistently abided by the principles of solidarity, integration, and equality for persons with disabilities. Socio-cultural measures have been put in place in various sectors of the economy in accordance with the Marrakesh Declaration. Madam President, Mali has created conditions for dignified life for persons with disabilities, working with employers and cooperatives as well as private individuals. The right to have access to all social programs is proclaimed and implemented. To guarantee the thriving of persons with disabilities in our society, the government has adopted special policies promoting education and vocational training policies specifically adapted to persons with disabilities. These persons have the right to take part in voting and be represented at local and national levels. We are committed to improving the quality of life for all people of Mali, and that includes persons with disabilities, and we value international conventions and instruments in that regard.
I now give the floor to the delegation of Bangladesh.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished participants. As we prepare for the Second World Summit for Social Development later this year, this is a moment for all of us to renew our commitment to build an inclusive world where everyone, including persons with disabilities, will have equal opportunities. In Bangladesh, our constitution guarantees equal rights and dignity for people with disabilities. We have taken various legal and policy initiatives to make development more inclusive. We ratified the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in 2007. We adopted the Rights and Protection of Persons with Disabilities Act in 2013 and the Disability Rights and Protection Rules in 2015 to ensure access to education, jobs, healthcare, social protection, and accessible environments for persons with disabilities. We are also implementing our National Action Plan on Disability. In 2021, we completed a national survey on persons with disabilities to improve data on disability. We have included disability in our national education and skill development policies, and we joined the Marrakesh Treaty in 2022. Our government provides rehabilitation and therapy services across the country, distributes free assistive devices, and runs special schools for children with autism. We are expanding technology-based skills training for persons with disabilities and included disability allowances in our social safety net programs. We also regularly conduct awareness programs for parents and caregivers. Our building codes include disability-friendly provisions. Madam Chair, despite good progress, there still remain challenges, especially in finance, data, and capacity building. Moreover, frequent natural disasters due to climate change are making life harder for people with disabilities. When disasters hit, persons with disabilities often face double challenges in accessing help or getting to safe place. Similar barriers exist in the digital world. Without internet access or assistive technology, many persons with disabilities are left out from education, jobs, and healthcare. That's why we need stronger global cooperation and solidarity. We would like to propose the following key actions. First, strengthen the focus on disability in global development agendas. Second, increase global funding and support for disability inclusive programs, services, and infrastructure, especially in developing countries. Third, invest in better data collection to understand the needs and challenges faced by persons with disabilities. And
I thank Bangladesh, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Pakistan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We meet at a defining moment when the global discourse on social development must embrace a truth long overdue. A world that excludes over 1 billion persons with disabilities is neither inclusive nor just and sustainable. Public awareness is a powerful catalyst for transforming societies. When we change perceptions, we open door to dignity, empowerment, and inclusion. Enhancing awareness about the rights of persons with disabilities, their capabilities and contributions is not just a moral imperative, it is essential for achieving vision of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the objectives and outcome of the forthcoming World Social Summit. There is an imperative need for a global campaign showcasing stories of resilience and leadership by persons with disabilities to amplify their voices through public awareness and integrate their perspectives in all policies and programs. Madam President, guided by our Constitution and the teachings of equality in Islam, we have enacted comprehensive legislation to uphold rights of persons with disabilities in Pakistan. Through targeted reforms such as the ICT Rights of Persons with Disability Act, inclusive education initiatives, universal health coverage programs, adoption of universal accessibility standards, and social protection safety nets, we are building a more equitable and inclusive society. Madam President, as we look ahead to the Second World Social Summit, we must ensure that disability inclusion is not a parallel track, but a central pillar of the World Social Summit outcome document, particularly in poverty eradication, education, employment, and social protection. If we are to advance social development in its truest sense, the lived realities, aspirations, and contributions of persons with disabilities must be woven into the very fabric of our global commitments. Let COSP18 send a clear message to the World Social Summit. We will not just build a future for persons with disabilities, we will build it with them. Inclusion is not an option, it is a collective responsibility and a right. I thank you.
I thank Pakistan, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Tunisia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We are pleased to participate in this debate on enhancing public awareness of the rights and contributions of persons with disabilities, whom we call the people of determination. This is worthy of them. This debate is crucial and timely, ahead of the Second World Summit for Social Development. For Tunisia, awareness is a strong catalyst of change. It paves the way for inclusion, helps change social perspectives, and promotes recognition of the vital role of persons with disabilities in different development areas. Nationally, we have endeavored to entrench this inclusive culture through public campaigns, education, and partnerships with representative organizations of persons with disability. In parallel, we pursue reforms to entrench this vision in our national policies. Our aim is to improve the disability evaluation system, promote access to education and employment, and invest in accessible means of transportation, digital services, and public spaces. We attach special importance to women and youth with disabilities, whose needs are more often than not neglected. But at the same time, we are aware that ambition alone is not enough to achieve results. Implementation requires sustained resources, ongoing technical capabilities, and cross-sectoral coordination. Like other Global South countries, we face financial, institutional, and structural challenges that might slow down and restrict progress. This is why international cooperation is of paramount importance. Achieving the CRPD objectives requires comprehensive partnerships, national capacity building, and equitable financing. Knowledge exchange, technology transfer, and dedicated financing can help our countries accelerate the implementation of inclusive policies for a greater impact. As preparations are underway for the Second World Summit for Social Development, Tunisia renews its commitment to disability inclusion in development plans. Awareness must go hand in hand with action. Opportunities must come with rights. Thank you.
I thank Tunisia, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Vietnam.
Madam Vice President, the theme of our session rightly underscores the vital role of public awareness in advancing the dignity, rights, and inclusion of persons with disabilities. As we look ahead to the Second World Summit for Social Development, it is imperative that inclusive development remains at the heart of our efforts to build a just, resilient, and equitable global society. In Vietnam, nearly 7 million people, approximately 7% of our population, live with disabilities. Promoting and safeguarding their rights has always been a cornerstone of our national development agenda. This commitment is enshrined in a robust legal and policy framework, including the 2010 Law on Persons with Disabilities and our ratification of the CRPD in 2014. The National Committee on Persons with Disabilities, established in 2015, continues to play a central role in coordinating and implementing policies to this end. Our efforts have yielded meaningful progress. More than 1.6 million persons with severe disabilities currently receive monthly social protection benefits, and 96% are covered by health insurance. Inclusive and specialized education models have expanded significantly, with a school attendance rate of 65% among children with disabilities. Standardized system of sign language and Braille have been introduced nationwide. Close to 4 million persons with disabilities are now part of the workforce, supported by vocational training programs, job replacement services, and employment incentives. Public awareness has been actively promoted through national observances and widespread media campaigns. Our National Action Plan on Disabilities for the 2020-2030 period prioritizes equal access to healthcare, education, transportation, and public infrastructure. By 2022, 85% of persons with disabilities in disadvantaged circumstances receive social assistance, and 80% of public buildings were compliant with accessibility standards. Looking ahead, Vietnam sees immense promise in innovative financing to unlock inclusive development. We also recognize the transformative potential of digital technologies and artificial intelligence in enhancing accessibility, personalizing education and healthcare services, and enabling more active and meaningful participation in society and policy making. We underscore the importance of international cooperation, both within ASEAN and at the United Nations, in mobilizing resources, sharing best practices, and leveraging.
I thank Vietnam, and I now give the floor to the delegation of the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is a great honor to represent the Republic of Korea at the 18th session of the Conference of State Parties to the CRPD. Since ratifying the convention in 2008, the Republic of Korea has firmly committed to its fundamental principles, with these values as a guiding light. We have continued to advance policies to improve the quality of life of persons with disability and ensure their rights are protected in all aspects of their daily lives. In line with the Act on Welfare of Persons with Disability, the Korean government has formulated the 6th Comprehensive Plan of Policies for Persons with Disabilities, covering the years from 2023 to 2027. This plan outlines our mid to long-term strategies for the full realization of the rights of persons with disabilities, with an emphasis on further practical and effective implementation. Allow me to highlight several key initiatives currently underway. First of all, a pilot program for integrated healthcare and caregiving seeks to render support to persons with disabilities, particularly those with mobility difficulties due to aging or disability, to enable them to continue to reside in their original communities as they have been doing. It guarantees the right to choose services and provides personalized forms of support which reflect the needs of individuals. Second, we are operating a pilot scheme, the personal budget system, which enables persons with disabilities to choose welfare services tailored to their individual needs and preferences. A portion of voucher-based benefits can be used for assistive devices, rehabilitation services, and improvements in their living environments. Thirdly, the enactment of the Act on the Support for Independent Living and Housing Transition of Persons with Disabilities marks a significant shift from institutional care toward community-based living, thereby laying a legal foundation for independent living. To enhance resilience in emergencies and public health crises caused by infectious diseases, the government will provide hospital beds for persons with disabilities in the second half of this year and adopt a comprehensive national plan for health care and wellness management for persons with disabilities to strengthen the basis for the right to health. Madam Vice President, we are fully engaging in heartfelt efforts for the implementation of the convention. We will continue to engage closely with persons with disabilities, civil society, academia, and the National Assembly. Thank you.
I thank the Republic of Korea, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Chile.
Presidenta, delegaciones, organizaciones.
Madam Chair, delegations, organisations of and for persons with disabilities, a very good morning. Since the ratification of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in 2008, Chile has been working to tweak its legal framework, promoting a human rights-based approach to our social model. In 2010, the law that guarantees rights of opportunities and social inclusion of disabilities was adopted, eliminating all forms of discrimination and creating the National Service for Persons with Disabilities, the CENADIS, tasked with promoting the participation, accessibility and equality of opportunities, raising awareness as to inclusion for the more than 3 million persons with disabilities in Chile, linking its work to the fundamental pillars of social inclusion, the eradication of poverty and decent employment. The active participation of persons with disabilities, their families and organisations is key in order to design and implement public policies, as recommended by the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And to ensure that nobody is left behind, it's necessary to include the participation of persons with disabilities and their organisations in decision-making when it comes to the laws, projects and policies that are implemented in each and every one of the states parties gathered here today at this global conference. Technology, including artificial intelligence, must be accessible and designed under the principle of universality benefiting all people. It's essential to adopt an intersectional approach, considering that disability interacts with other factors such as gender, age, ethnicity, or race. Chile has made progress in ensuring the political participation of persons with disability and Indigenous persons, promoting assisted votes and strengthening working conditions. However, this does not end with merely just hiring persons with disabilities, but it also must involve accessibility criteria and reasonable adjustments throughout the work cycle, in line with the principles of equal opportunities and non-discrimination. The participation of persons with disabilities and their organisations are fundamental when it comes to discussing everything that concerns them, since that in order to be inclusive we need to make huge improvements in improving quality of life, valuing diversity of the human condition and promoting social development, as well as looking at the contributions that persons with disabilities can make, not just politically and programmatically, but also in the lives of every single person. Madam Chair, the State of Chile reiterates its commitment because Chile is moving towards a much more inclusive and accessible country. Thank you very much.
And I now give the floor to the delegation of the Syrian Arab Republic.
Madam President, let me start by expressing our sincere condolences to India, the country that suffered a tragic plane crash today. My country is pursuing reforms in all areas, even though we're overcoming 14 years of conflict, suffering in various areas that have caused more than 1.5 million Syrians to suffer from disabilities. We spare no effort to work towards sustainable development and create a society that recognizes and guarantees the rights of these persons in all parts of society. It's our life and it's our obligation. It's a matter of priority. Syria is aware of the need to ensuring that persons with disabilities participate fully in the life of society. We understand the need to fight the stigma and the alienation that these people often experience. They need to be given a chance to play an active role in all areas of life. Today, we are working to relaunch the economy, re-establish and revive national institutions and social services. We are aware that all of these efforts must also include persons with disabilities and their rights. Needless to say, we're facing major challenges. Our infrastructure was largely ruined by the years of war, but we do have the support of the people and look to other countries, partners who provide technology transfers, financial and technical assistance to allow us to work towards the well-being of all our citizens, including persons with disabilities. We are calling on Qatar and others to make sure that their voices are heard at the time of the conference on social participation. Thank you.
I now give the floor to the delegation of Nicaragua, who will address the conference via a pre-recorded video message. I kindly invite the Secretariat to play the video.
Honorables representantes de los estados, personas con discapacidad y demás.
Distinguished representatives, persons with disabilities, participants, please receive the fraternal regards of the state of Nicaragua. Persons with disabilities make significant contributions to the social, economic and political development of nations.
Can I please ask the Secretariat to restart the video of Nicaragua?
A través de ejecución de políticas y programas estados, personas con discapacidad y demás participantes. Reciban un fraterno saludo.
Apologies from the interpreters, we can't interpret when there's music.
Aportan significativamente al desarrollo social, económico y política de las naciones, siempre que se garanticen las condiciones necesarias para esta tarea, principalmente que exista voluntad política y compromiso real de los estados a través de ejecución de políticas y programas inclusivos. Nicaragua es un ejemplo positivo en este ámbito, puesto que en el 2006 el Gobierno de Reconciliación y Unidad Nacional se inició un proceso de transformación estructural basados en principios cristianos, socialistas y solidarios, que buscan la inclusión y dignificación de las personas en todos los aspectos de la vida. Como parte de las acciones destacadas, Nicaragua firmó y ratificó en el 2007 la Convención sobre los Derechos de las Personas con Discapacidad. Desde entonces, ha implementado un marco jurídico moderno, adaptando leyes a los nuevos desafíos, siempre en favor de la dignidad y los derechos de todos y todas. Además, con la aprobación de la Ley 763, se reconoce a las personas con discapacidad como actores activos en la formulación, ejecución y evaluación de políticas públicas con enfoque de derechos humanos. El Estado ha trabajado estrechamente con las organizaciones de personas con discapacidad, impulsando iniciativas inclusivas en todos los sectores económicos para garantizar su inserción laboral y fomentar el emprendedurismo y la dinámica económica del país. En el ámbito educativo, Nicaragua desarrolla una estrategia de educación integral e inclusiva, con recursos adecuados, infraestructuras accesibles, personal capacitado y una currícula constantemente actualizada. En salud se destaca el programa Todos con Voz, iniciado en el 2009 con el apoyo solidario del gobierno de Cuba, que garantiza atención gratuita, permanente y especializada. Una muestra del ejercicio pleno de los derechos políticos de las personas con discapacidad es que en nuestro país ocupamos cargos de dirección y en órganos como electoral y legislativo, así como los gobiernos municipales. Finalmente, el Estado de Nicaragua reitera su compromiso de continuar avanzando en la restitución plena de los derechos de las personas con discapacidad como parte esencial de nuestra nación, caminando juntos hacia el desarrollo sostenible, la paz, el respeto pleno de los derechos humanos. Gracias.
I thank Nicaragua, and I now give the floor to the delegation of Uruguay, which will also deliver its statement via a pre-recorded video message. I kindly invite the Secretariat to play the video.
Bueno, mi nombre es Federico Lezama, director de Discapacidad del Ministerio de Desarrollo Social del Uruguay. Señor Presidente del Comité, desde nuestro país queremos hacer llegar nuestro saludo a todos los participantes de esta conferencia. Reafirmamos el compromiso del Estado uruguayo con la comunidad internacional y con los más altos estándares en materia de derechos de personas con discapacidad. Uruguay asumió este año un nuevo gobierno y tiene el objetivo de fortalecer la institucionalidad rectora de las políticas de discapacidad para impulsar los desafíos pendientes. Así también, implementar la valoración y certificación única de la discapacidad como piedra fundamental de un sistema nacional de políticas públicas en discapacidad, creando indicadores que permitan medir el impacto y las acciones en la calidad de vida de las personas. Uruguay cuenta con mecanismos de participación, seguimiento y monitoreo de la aplicación de la Convención Internacional de los Derechos de las Personas con Discapacidad. Y en ese contexto, la participación social es un pilar en la construcción de las políticas públicas. Los temas prioritarios de nuestro gobierno serán la educación, la salud, el trabajo, la autonomía y la vida independiente. Para implementar estas orientaciones, hemos logrado construir un acuerdo entre todos los partidos políticos del Uruguay, en conjunto con la sociedad civil, los que nos da una base de apoyo que nunca tuvimos antes. La toma de conciencia, tema central de esta conferencia, será un eje transversal a toda la política. Haremos especial énfasis en la lucha contra el capacitismo, en un contexto mundial cada vez más marcado por la competencia, el individualismo y la prescindencia. Integrar la innovación, liderada hoy por la inteligencia artificial en nuestros servicios, es una forma para eliminar barreras que desarrollen el potencial y el talento de todas las personas. Es muy importante regular los aspectos éticos, sin sesgos y con transparencia. Seguiremos de cerca estas conversaciones que se discuten en esta convención. En Uruguay nos importa destacar el valor de la cooperación internacional para el avance de las agendas de derechos humanos en el mundo. En nuestro país, en los últimos años, recibimos los apoyos del Sistema de Naciones Unidas, de la Fundación 11, del Programa Iberoamericano de la Discapacidad, entre otros socios bilaterales. Y a su vez Uruguay ha compartido y comparte con otros países del sur sus buenas prácticas en este ámbito, porque nadie se salva solo. Por todo ello, celebramos esta conferencia e instamos a todos a alzar la bandera de la solidaridad internacional hoy más que nunca. Muchas gracias.
I thank Uruguay, and I now give the floor to the delegation of the Republic of Moldova, our last speaker for this part of the general debate.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. Rethinking disability inclusion and a more fair and representative world in a complex and often difficult international juncture is of utmost importance. The upcoming Second World Summit for Social Development, to which our country pays particular attention, including by participating in the negotiation of a political declaration, it's a momentum for analyzing progress which was made at national and international level and reflect on ways to further progress. The rights of each person are equally important and must be protected without any discriminations, including and most of those vulnerable and people, and accountability for any kind of human rights violation must be pursued. At this point, it's clear that additional efforts are needed to ensure that no one is left behind. In an interconnected and global society, international cooperation it is of the most valuable, as well as to take actions at national stage to ensure that adequate protection and for all human rights and for all the human fundamental freedoms are in place. The Republic of Moldova is fully committed to its international obligation with regard to respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights, and continuously deploys effort to strengthen the national human rights monitoring and reporting mechanism institutions, as well as the national legislations. Distinguished delegates, by ratifying the UN Convention for CRPD in 2010, the Republic of Moldova has shown its commitment to the subject by developing and promoting policies in the fields of social inclusion of persons with disability, as well as adjusting its national legislation to the provision of the international one. In 2012, the Republic of Moldova adopted a law number 16 on the social inclusion of persons with disability, which provides for ensuring the rights of all persons with disability on equal footing with our citizens to everything: education, social protection, health care, rehabilitation, work, public life, physical environment, transportation, information, communication technologies and systems, and other utilities and services to which the general public has access. Furthermore, in 2021, the Moldovan government ratified as well the optional protocol to the convention. In the same vein, the relevant government authorities are developing effective public policies and making it known to the public by letting them to participate in the consultations and coming up with justified intervention and solutions. In the interest of time, the full statement will be submitted to the Secretariat, and I thank you.
I thank the Republic of Moldova for their statement. That was the final intervention in this morning's segment of the general debate. We will now suspend the general debate and move to roundtable number 3. The general debate will resume and conclude during the first hour of this afternoon's meeting, starting at 3 p.m. in this same room.